Uh, uh. Good
Hello
morning.
and welcome to the Morning Deuce with Davis Spindle. We got a lot to talk about today, so thanks for spending your couple minutes of your morning with me because I'm excited. We do have a listener in South Korea who listens to the Morning Deuce when it comes out at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right when he comes home from work. So if you're listening in South Korea, it's a post-work morning deuce, which doesn't really make sense. But a post-work deuce, that's a thing, I think. But otherwise, welcome to the Morning with Dave. I got to get started with something. It's going to be a little bit of a rant. It's on my chest. People were asking me about it that know me if I was going to talk about it. I'm a diehard Patriots fan. Deflategate is back. The appeals court wants to suspend Tom Brady again for the 4 games. Additionally, originally Roger Goodell wanted. We're going to do this for about 3 minutes. So if you don't want to hear this, skip ahead 3 minutes. I understand. I know a ton about Deflategate, so I'm going to go off for 3 minutes and we're going to get it out. It's absolutely ridiculous what happened, but basically, if you read into it, the original arbitration ruling overturned the suspension. It was done by a guy on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals who basically said the NFL pretended it was an independent investigation, but it wasn't. They had their own team do it internally. They pretended they never saw the information, but they actually did see it and get access to review it before they released it. And they prevented one of the witnesses testifying for the Tom Brady and the Patriots organization from being part of the arbitration hearing because Roger Goodell said he doesn't have any information that could add anything to help me change my decision, which is essentially like a judge in a court saying your witness doesn't matter and it's not going to change my opinion, so you can't bring that witness on stage, which can happen in a court of law, but because it's an arbitration hearing, there's all sorts of different rules. He said it was so bad and so poorly done, he threw it out. Well, they appealed it to 3 more judges on the Second Circuit panel. There's 20 judges. Of the 3 judges, 2 of them voted to reinstate it, and 1 of them did not, who's the head judge. He said it was such a badly done performance, and it was so lopsided and egregious, and basically he said there was already another penalty that they had in place if they thought this was an offense that was much more minute based on the Brett Favre case, which was a couple $1,000s. And they chose to overlook that and go to some drastic penalty that made no sense, that he said it was so egregious and didn't follow their own protocol that it made no sense and voted against it. The other 2 judges basically said the system was really bad, but because of the horrible collective bargaining agreement that ironically Robert Kraft was a huge part of helping settle with the players, ironically, the horrible collective bargaining agreement basically said that they signed away that Roger Goodell could be judge and jury and do absolutely whatever he wanted. So even though it was basically a witch hunt and they framed a lot of the information and they did a horrible job and they pretended and it was independent and it wasn't, and they have no concrete evidence that includes Tom Brady whatsoever, it really doesn't matter. Basically, I think one of the judges said it's ironic that the system that was designed to protect all of its players was used corruptly just to frame one of them, just to screw one of them over. So the entire thing is just absolutely ridiculous. People are saying it's kind of like my friend Desmond, my roommate. He's awesome. Desmond is the most stubborn person in the world when he cements to an opinion. He could tell you the world is flat, and you could say it's round and give scientific proof, and he will relentlessly tell you it's flat and look up everything in the world that he could possibly use to give you 1 iota that the world is flat, that eventually he just wears you down to the point where you give up, where you're like, it's not worth explaining or fighting my side anymore, just don't talk to me. And then that's how he wins, with exhaustion. That's Roger Goodell. I think he's an egomaniac at this point, that he spent I think $45 million trying to prove that Tom Brady did something, and now just will not take no for an answer, even though all of the answers are no, that at this point he's just I can do whatever I want, I don't care. And it's the Desmond tactic. He's wearing us down. The other analogy, for those of you that don't follow sports, is basically what he's doing is he's pulling a Hunger Games, and we're all in the Hunger Games. He's President Snow. People are like, why would he destroy Tom Brady? He's the jewel of the league. Well, Tom Brady was the Katniss Everdeen, and at first, President Snow wants Katniss Everdeen to be oh, so wonderful, and represent the Capitol and be an amazing champion and help unite the districts. But he's so egotistical, and Katniss Everdeen starts to realize how corrupt Tom Brady, how corrupt the league is, how corrupt the Capitol is, that she begins to lead this revolt. And President Snow, with all the owners in the Capitol, has promised that he would keep everything together, and he's so egotistical he can't lose that all of a sudden he turns everything against it so he can destroy Katniss Everdeen, the Mockingjay. Tom Brady is the Mockingjay in this example. So, poo or whatever the song the Mockingjay makes, where it's like, doo, 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 boo, 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 boo. That's Tom Brady right now to the rest of the locker room. But Goodell's the President Snow, and he's going to die in a pit of his own roses. Spoiler for those of you that haven't read the books, like I have, or seen most of the movies except for the last one. That is Deflategate. We finished that. We got most of it out. It took longer than I said, which is a theme for when I give a time. I usually go beyond it. Let's move on from that. We got it out. Deflategate was horrible. Hopefully they can keep appealing it, and he'll never have to serve the suspension. It does nothing to change his legacy because he never got proved of anything. It's a horrible witch hunt. Moving along, crazy story that I covered in the news today that I had to just say out loud. It's the 30th anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown, which is it's weird that there's like a part of the world that needs gigantic steel metal over it because radiation leaked everywhere and it's toxic to everyone around it. But we covered the story that there are farmers that have land in Belarus, somewhat near what happened to Chernobyl, and they have no other way to make money off the land that they have, and they're so poor that they grow cows on the land, and the cows are eating this nuclear land, like it's nuclear waste in the land, and they're eating it and creating milk, and the milk has like 10 to 12% higher levels of radiation than it should have to be sold. And let's be honest, that's the highest end of the threshold. So it's well above anything that anyone would want to drink. But they have no other way to make money off the land that they have. They're super poor, so they grow these, they raise cattle on the land, produce milk, they sell the milk to Russia, and the people in Russia are so poor they can't buy better milk, so they buy the cheapest, lowest, crappiest milk that comes from Belarus that undercuts the rest of the sales, and they're drinking this horrible nuclear waste milk. And that was just such a tragic story for me, where like these farmers know they're probably doing something terrible, but at the same token, if they don't do it, they'll have no livelihood to survive. They're choosing like to slow horrific nuclear radiation destruction of their bodies as opposed to just having no other alternative. And then the people in Russia who are buying the milk have no other alternative, so they're trying to get some nourishment of some kind, and they can't afford to do otherwise, that they've chosen this like slow, horrible, painful way. Or they're just completely duped and uninformed. It was just struck me as court as like, it's crazy the things that some people are willing to put in their body when they have no other opportunity. And I just thought that was really, really interesting and really weird that 30 years ago, this area melted down and we still are putting gigantic metal plates around it to try to keep the radiation in. Yet there are still some people that are growing things on the land around it and using it to create things that other people have to put in their body. It's a backwards world, man. Those are all the thoughts we had to get out. That's the end of part one. Part two is much more uplifting. And part two of the Deuce today is a great story about a 9-year-old in Missouri who literally took lemons and made them into lemonade. His name is Tristan Jacobson, and he had a really tough upbringing. His mom had a lot of problems, and she couldn't take care of him, and he had been raised by another family for a couple years, and he wanted them to adopt him, and they couldn't afford to do it. It was going to cost them like tens of thousands of dollars, and they're the only people that's cared for him, and he decided to set up a lemonade stand and sell lemonade and cookies for $1 to try to raise money so that his parents the people who were taking care of him, could legally adopt him. And he raised $6,000 in a weekend, and then someone started a website for him, and he raised another like $9,000 or $10,000. And now the family that's been taking care of him for the better part of the last 5 years can legally adopt him, and he can get the benefits that you get of being the legal guardian of those people. So a 9-year-old, he just did it. We talked last week, we had the Shia LaBeouf, like, just do it, don't let your dreams be dreams. 9-year-old kid just didn't take no for an answer. He wanted those people to be his parents so much that they said they couldn't afford to do it, and they were sorry, and he took matters into his own hands and literally took lemons and made lemonade. So if a 9-year-old can choose to do that and figure out a way to make it happen, we can all figure out a way to make it happen. So that's it. That's what we're leaving you with on this Tuesday on the Deuce. Oh, I have one very small last thought. I've been thinking about it a couple days. There's nowhere else to put it in. This is a little bit of a hodgepodge episode, so I'll fit it in. I saw Prince perform when I was in college, towards my senior year of school. I'd always been a Prince fan, but when I saw him perform, it was really incredible. I've always said since I was younger that my goal was to be the best in the world at something, and it didn't even matter exactly what it was. I just wanted to be the best at something. And I remember specifically watching Prince that day. He's unbelievable on guitar. He rose up from underneath the stage. The stage was in the shape of his symbol, and he was such an unbelievable entertainer from the minute the lights went on and he came up. You were just in awe because you were seeing someone who is the best in the world at being an entertainer do it. Like he is the pinnacle. And for one point in time, like he was the absolute best entertainer in the world. And he still had that, decades later. You have to admire sometimes. There aren't a lot of opportunities in your life where you get to see someone who is the top of the top of the top do their craft. And when you do, you just admire and you remember what that moment was. And that's what I've been thinking about lately. That was the takeaway from Prince, was this guy, he was the best in the world at something. And that's something that's been a goal of mine. I still don't know what I'm going to be the best at the world at, but hey, I'm trying. He knew and he did it, and I got to witness it. So yeah, that's been the Morning Deuce with Davis Spindle. We wiped it clean. Thanks, and I'll talk at you guys tomorrow. I guess I won't see you, so I'll talk at you. Bye. #trending.com. Hit it up.
I know you like to thank you. Don't stand.